Blood of My Blood episode 10 flips everything. Love turns to war, vows turn to betrayal. And not everyone makes it out alive. The finale opens with Ellen's wedding day. Something that's been teased for weeks, but it's not a celebration, it feels like a funeral march. Everyone is dressed in their finest, but under all the silks and jewels, there's a layer of tension so thick you can almost choke on it. Ellen is supposed to marry Malcolm Grant, the man chosen to secure power and peace for her family. But her heart is still somewhere else. Or rather, with someone else. We've watched her struggle with this from the start. Torn between the life her brothers demand of her and the love she found in Brian. And now, at the very moment she's supposed to vow her loyalty to Malcolm, the ghost of that love refuses to let her go. Brian, beaten down again and again, is still refusing to surrender. If there's one thing we've learned about him, it's that his love for Ellen doesn't die quietly. Even after Ellen's forced rejection, even after Colum's manipulations, even after being hunted like an animal, Brian is still standing. He's broken in body but not in spirit, and this finale proves that he's ready to risk it all. The trailer already hinted at his plan to snatch Ellen before she's forced into vows she never wanted, but watching it play out, you realize just how much desperation fuels him. He's no longer just a man in love. He's a man with nothing left to lose, and that makes him dangerous. But Ellen isn't passive in all this. As she's being prepared for the ceremony, her silence says more than words. You can see it in her eyes, the weight of betrayal, the sting of losing Brian, the dread of walking down the aisle toward a future she never chose. She's torn between her family's expectations and the part of her that still longs for Brian. And though she tries to bury it, love that deep has a way of surfacing at the worst possible time. That's the thread holding this entire episode together, suppressed feelings breaking free, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, Julia and Henry are fighting their own impossible battle, separated by danger and circumstance. Their love story has been the quieter one compared to Ellen and Brian, but it's no less powerful. They've crossed time itself to be together, and yet fate keeps putting obstacles in their way. In this finale, that struggle comes to a head. Julia is running with William, trying to reach the meeting point she promised Henry, and her desperation mirrors Ellen's. To women, both in love, both trapped by forces outside their control, both racing against time. The symmetry is powerful, one running from a wedding, the other running toward freedom, but in both cases, the future is uncertain. And then there's Colum and Dowell, the brothers whose iron grip has suffocated everyone else's choices. In earlier episodes, we saw glimpses of their ruthlessness, but here, the masks come off completely. Their promises mean nothing, their loyalty is to power above all else, and their actions leave no doubt about the kind of men they truly are. Colum's sly wordplay claiming he wouldn't harm Brian from this moment onward, while already having set his death in motion, was just the beginning. Now, their true colors stain every move they make. But here's the question that lingers: do these men really understand the storm they've unleashed? Every betrayal has consequences, and by the end of this finale, it feels like their power may finally start to crack. As the tension builds, the wedding itself becomes less about vows and more about survival. Ellen's blue dress, Malcolm's growing suspicion, Mrs. Fitz's quiet prayers, every detail feels like a countdown clock ticking toward disaster. You can sense it, this isn't going to end in celebration. The finale is all about inevitability, about love colliding with duty, about choices that can't be undone. And as much as we may root for Brian and Ellen to escape, deep down we know there will be blood to pay for it. The title of the show has never felt so fitting. What makes this finale so intense is the way every storyline collides at once. Brian and Ellen's love, Julia and Henry's escape, Colum and Dowell's schemes, Malcolm's honor, Mrs. Fitz's quiet prayers. It all builds into one storm where no one leaves untouched. The wedding that was supposed to bring peace ends up dragging everyone into a fight for survival. Ellen is at the center of it, dressed like a bride but feeling like a prisoner. Every step she takes toward Malcolm feels heavier, as though she's walking away from the only piece of happiness she ever truly wanted. The camera doesn't even need dialogue here, you can feel the silence around her, the suffocating sense of duty pressing down while her heart screams for Brian. Brian, on the other hand, refuses to be silent. His life has been nothing but rejection, humiliation, and pain. His father's abuse, Colum's betrayal, Ellen's forced goodbye, it all should have broken him. But instead, it turned him into someone more dangerous. This finale shows Brian not just as Ellen's lover, but as a man ready to defy an entire system that told him he was worthless. His decision to steal Ellen back from Castle Leo isn't reckless, it's inevitable. He's not only fighting for love, he's fighting for dignity, for the right to choose his own life, even if it kills him. That's why every moment with Brian feels like it's crackling with energy. We know he's up against impossible odds, yet we can't help but believe he might just pull it off. Murdoch's presence only adds to this tension. Their fractured friendship has been one of the quieter storylines, but here, it finally reaches its breaking point. For so long, Murdoch has seen Brian as a betrayer, someone unworthy of trust. But when he realizes the depth of Brian's love for Ellen, something shifts. His words about legends and forgiveness hit hard because they remind us that, even in a world filled with cruelty and betrayal, loyalty can still shine through. Watching Brian and Murdoch unite, two men who've carried their own wounds, but still choose to fight together, feels like a turning point. It's the kind of bond that can reshape battles, and in this case, it just might give Brian the edge he needs. Meanwhile, Julia and Henry's path runs parallel. And that's no coincidence. While Ellen and Brian are trying to fight for love against family and tradition, Julia and Henry are fighting for love against time itself. Julia's desperate run with William, her cries for help, her hope of reuniting with Henry, all of it mirrors Ellen's struggle in the castle. Both women are risking everything, and both know that failure means losing the one person who makes their suffering worth it. But where Ellen is trapped by her brother's control, Julia is trapped by fate itself. The jewel that allowed them to time travel once is missing, and the clock is ticking fast. Their reunion isn't just about escaping enemies, it's about trying to rewrite destiny. What's striking in this episode is how everyone is making choices that come with blood on them. Colum and Dowell are the clearest examples. Their hunger for power blinds them, pushing them to betray their own promises and set deadly traps without hesitation. They may believe they're acting in the name of family, but it's obvious now that their love for control is stronger than any bond of blood. And that's where the irony cuts the deepest. The show called Blood of My Blood is showing us that sometimes blood isn't thicker than water. Sometimes it's poison. Even Malcolm, who's been shown as kind and honorable throughout the season, is forced into a corner here. His anger isn't just about being left at the altar, it's about humiliation. About realizing that despite his wealth and power, he was never Ellen's choice. The tragedy is that Malcolm isn't a villain. He genuinely cared for Ellen, and in another world, maybe their marriage could have worked. But in this one, he becomes yet another casualty of a love that refuses to be tamed. His rage, his wounded pride, and his family's thirst for vengeance all spiral together into a promise that this wedding will not end quietly. By the time the chaos begins to unfold, it's clear that every character has reached a breaking point. Ellen must decide if she'll run or stay chained. Brian must risk death to fight for her. Julia must outsmart fate itself to find Henry. Malcolm must choose between dignity and destruction. And Colum and Dowell? They've already made their choice. And it's one that guarantees blood will be spilled before the day is over. The beauty of this finale is that nothing feels certain. The show keeps us guessing, teasing betrayals and rescues, victories and losses, until we're left holding our breath. And that's the genius of Blood of My Blood Episode 10. It's not just about shocking moments, it's about building tension so high that even the smallest choice feels earth-shattering. A look across the room, a whisper in the shadows, a hand reaching for another, it all carries the weight of destiny. This isn't just a finale. It's a war disguised as a wedding, and by the end of it, no one walks away untouched. One of the most powerful parts of this finale is how the tension doesn't just stay in one place, it spreads like cracks in glass. Every character is connected to the chaos, whether they realize it or not. Ellen's choice at the altar isn't just her decision, it's a blow to her entire family. Brian's plan to steal her away isn't just about love. It's about rebellion against a system that tried to bury him. Julia's desperate run to Henry isn't just an escape, it's a fight against time itself. Each thread is tangled with the others, pulling tighter and tighter until something finally snaps. Let's talk about Ellen first, because she is the beating heart of this episode. She's not the same woman we met at the start of the season, the one who dreamed quietly, who did what was asked of her even when it hurt. The Ellen we see in this finale is harder, wiser, and deeply conflicted. The moment she looks into the mirror in her blue wedding dress, you can see the weight of every sacrifice written across her face. She knows that marrying Malcolm means betraying her heart, but running with Brian means betraying her family. There is no path without pain, and that's what makes her so compelling in this episode. She isn't just a love interest, she's the symbol of how impossible choices can tear a person apart. Brian, on the other hand, doesn't have time for reflection. His entire storyline in the finale is action, desperation, and raw courage. The image of him, bruised and bloodied, still pushing forward to reach Ellen, is unforgettable. He has every reason to give up. Every voice around him screams that he's already lost, but he doesn't, and that's what makes him so dangerous to men like Colum, because a man who has nothing left to lose cannot be controlled. Brian represents the wild card, the piece of the puzzle Colum didn't plan for, and the finale leans into that beautifully. His presence turns what should have been a carefully orchestrated union into complete chaos. Murdoch's role here is fascinating too. His choice to stand beside Brian even after everything shows that forgiveness can come in the most unexpected ways. When he calls Brian's love the kind of thing written in legends, it doesn't just sound romantic, it feels like foreshadowing. Because legends aren't about easy victories. Legends are born from blood, sacrifice, and impossible odds. By standing with Brian, Murdoch is making a choice that will likely cost him dearly. But it also redeems him in a way we've been waiting for all season. Their alliance, fragile but powerful, is one of the highlights of this finale now. Shifting to Julia and Henry, their storyline is different in tone, but it carries the same urgency. Julia's run through the woods, clutching William, calling out for help, it's haunting. She's not just a woman trying to escape danger. She's a mother trying to protect her child and a lover trying to reach Henry before time runs out. The symmetry between her race for freedom and Ellen's march toward the altar is stunning. Two women, two different prisons, one made of tradition, the other made of fate, and both of them trying to break free. That parallel makes every scene with Julia hit harder. Henry's situation is equally intense. Waiting at the meeting point, unsure if Julia will make it, he's trapped in his own prison of doubt. We know he's been betrayed before, we know the brothel worker overheard his plans, and we know danger is circling around him. The finale plays on that uncertainty, keeping us on edge about whether Julia will reach him in time, or whether someone else will find him first. That lingering threat makes their love story feel just as dangerous and high stakes as Brian and Ellen's. And then there's Malcolm. Oh, Malcolm. I've said it before and I'll say it again, he's not a villain. He's kind, honorable, and truly cared for Ellen. That's what makes his downfall so heartbreaking. Watching his face when he realizes Ellen doesn't love him, that she may even run from him, is devastating. He's not cruel like Colum or Dowell. He's not manipulative or ruthless. He's just a man who believed in a love that was never really his. And that's the tragedy of his story. His pain turns to anger and his anger fuels vengeance, but underneath it all, he's just broken. In another life, he could have been the hero. But in this one, he's left as collateral damage in a love story he can never win. What makes this finale so brutal is that there are no easy answers. No clear winners or losers. Ellen and Brian's love feels doomed even in its most passionate moments. Julia and Henry's escape feels fragile even in their strongest scenes. Malcolm's kindness is destroyed by betrayal. Colum and Dowell's power feels unshakable. But their ruthlessness leaves them more isolated than ever. It's a world where love demands sacrifice and power demands blood. And in the end, the show reminds us that sometimes both love and power are paid for in the same currency. By the close of this section of the story, you can feel the storm reaching its peak. Every character has stepped into a place they can't turn back from. Ellen at the altar, Brian preparing his desperate move, Julia running toward her fate, Henry waiting in the shadows, Malcolm boiling with rage, Colum and Dowell tightening their grip. Everyone is holding their breath, and so are we. And that's what makes episode 10 unforgettable. It's not just the action. It's the dread of knowing that every choice made here will leave scars that carry into the next season. If there's one word that defines episode 10, it's consequences. Every action that's been building since the very first episode finally comes crashing down here. Nobody escapes untouched. And what makes this finale so gripping is that every consequence feels earned. Every betrayal, every secret, every choice finally explodes in the open. The wedding, which started as a symbol of peace and union, turns into the battlefield where all these consequences collide. Ellen is the center of it all. She may not hold a sword, she may not plot like Colum or fight like Brian, but her very existence is the spark that sets this fire ablaze. The image of her walking down the aisle in that blue gown is haunting. It's not just a wedding dress, it's a chain, binding her to a future she doesn't want. And yet, she wears it with grace, her face calm on the surface while her heart wages war underneath. That duality is what makes her so compelling. She isn't free to choose, but she isn't powerless either. And when the moment comes, when the silence breaks and she finally has to act, we see exactly how much strength she's been holding back. Brian's path to her feels like something out of myth. Bruised, hunted, betrayed, yet still unbroken. His determination isn't just romantic, it's almost defiant. Like he's daring the entire world to try and stop him. And the world does try. Men are still after him, blades drawn, orders whispered by Colum, but Brian refuses to fall. Every fight he survives feels like a statement: you will not erase me. You will not erase us. Watching him push forward, even when the odds are stacked against him, makes his love for Ellen feel larger than life. It's the kind of love that terrifies men like Colum because it cannot be controlled, bought, or killed easily. Murdoch standing by his side makes all the difference. His forgiveness isn't just about personal loyalty, it's about acknowledging the truth of Brian's love. When he calls it the kind of devotion found in legends, it resonates because by this point, it really does feel legendary. Not because it's perfect, but because it's messy, flawed, and fought for with blood. The bond between Brian and Murdoch in this episode becomes one of the strongest dynamics in the entire show. And it reminds us that family isn't always about blood, it's about who chooses to stand with you when everything falls apart. On the other side of the story, Julia and Henry's reunion hangs by a thread. Julia's desperate cries for help, the way she clutches William, the sheer fear in her voice, it's impossible not to feel her panic. Every step she takes feels like danger is right behind her. And Henry, waiting at the meeting point, is trapped in his own silent torment. Will she make it? Or will betrayal find her first? The fact that we know the brothel worker overheard their plan only makes the tension worse. Every sound in the distance could be Julia or it could be an enemy. And that suspense keeps you glued to the screen. What makes their storyline so impactful is the way it mirrors Brian and Ellen's, two couples, both trying to defy forces bigger than themselves. One trapped by tradition and family, the other trapped by time and fate. Both running, both risking everything. Both desperate to cling to love even as the world tears it from their hands. That parallel structure gives the finale a poetic weight. Like we're watching two battles being fought on different fields but with the same stakes: freedom, love, survival. Malcolm's role here shouldn't be overlooked either. For weeks, he's been the kind and noble suitor, the man who genuinely treated Ellen with respect. And that's what makes his downfall so tragic. When he realizes Ellen's heart belongs to Brian, his pain transforms into fury. He's not just embarrassed, he's shattered. For Malcolm, this wasn't just politics, it was personal. He wanted Ellen not just for an alliance, but because he truly believed he could make her happy. And that belief, crushed in the most public way possible, fuels his rage. Watching his kind eyes harden, his gentle words twist into threats, is devastating. He's proof that even the best intentions can be destroyed when they collide with a love that refuses to die. And then there's Colum and Dowell. Ruthless, calculating, and increasingly dangerous. Their promises were lies, their loyalty has always been to themselves, and in this finale, their cruelty is impossible to ignore. Colum's clever wordplay about not hurting Brian from this moment onward is just one example of how coldly he manipulates people. Dowell, no better, feeds the fire by betraying Ellen's secret. Together, they embody the kind of power that suffocates everything around it. But what they fail to realize is that every choice they've made has consequences. They think they're in control, but by the end of the finale, it's clear they've unleashed forces they can't contain. The theme of blood is everywhere in this episode. Blood as family. Blood as sacrifice. Blood as vengeance. Every character is tied to it in some way, and by the time the wedding unravels into chaos, it's impossible to ignore the symbolism. This isn't just about a union, it's about what people are willing to bleed for. Ellen bleeds for love. Brian bleeds for freedom. Julia and Henry bleed for survival. Malcolm bleeds for dignity. And Colum and Dowell? They spill blood to protect their power. That's why the finale feels so powerful, it lives up to the title of the show itself. By the close of this section, the storm has broken. Secrets are spilling out. Rage is boiling over. Love is fighting to survive. And the question isn't just who will win or lose, it's who will still be standing. When the blood finally dries, the final stretch of blood of my blood. Episode 10 doesn't just end the story, it rips the ground out from under every character, forcing them to face the kind of truths that leave scars you can't ever hide. The wedding, which once promised unity, now looks more like a funeral for peace. The walls echo not with vows but with gasps, shouts, and the kind of silence that only comes after betrayal slices through the air like a blade. The first blow lands with Dowell's betrayal. His smug voice carries the weight of poison as he spills Ellen's secret in front of everyone. The guests don't know where to look. Malcolm's face twists from shock into something darker. And Colum, he watches it all unfold with a predator's patience. Like this is the moment he's been building toward all along. It's not just a secret being revealed, it's Ellen's entire future being ripped out of her hands. And yet, as the crowd murmurs and eyes turn sharp, Ellen doesn't crumble. She stands taller, her defiance burning through the shame they tried to drown her in. That defiance is her weapon, and she wields it without fear. Malcolm's fury hits like a storm. His voice, once tender, becomes a blade. He demands answers, but the answers only cut him deeper. Every ounce of dignity he carried into this union is shattered. And in its place grows something far more dangerous: vengeance. He isn't just a man rejected. He's a man humiliated in front of the world. And humiliation has a way of twisting men into monsters. His pain is raw, but his anger is deadly. The kindness that once made him likable is gone, replaced by something colder, sharper, unrecognizable. Brian bursts into this chaos like a force of nature. Bruised, beaten, but unbroken, he throws himself into the fire because there's no other choice. When he looks at Ellen across that crowded room, it isn't just love we see, it's salvation. She's the reason he fought, the reason he bled, the reason he refused to stay buried. And in that moment, every whisper, every scheme, every blade that tried to stop him feels powerless. Because he made it. Against all odds, he made it. The clash that follows isn't just physical, it's spiritual. It's two worlds colliding. On one side, Colum and Dowell clinging to power built on lies, betrayal, and manipulation. On the other, Brian and Ellen, refusing to let love be crushed beneath the weight of duty and control. And standing between them is Malcolm, torn apart, his grief boiling into rage. The tension is unbearable because you know not everyone will survive the storm. Meanwhile, Julia and Henry's storyline reaches its knife-edge moment. Julia's steps toward the meeting point feel heavier with every breath, danger chasing her with every beat of the drum. Henry waits, scanning the horizon, torn between hope and fear. And then, movement. A figure approaches. But is it Julia? Or the betrayal that's been hunting her since the brothel? That's the brilliance of this finale. It keeps you suspended on that razor's edge. Your heart in your throat, terrified of what's about to walk into the frame. Back in the hall, chaos erupts. Blades are drawn, shouts fill the air, and blood stains the floor. The title blood of My Blood becomes prophecy. Every character bleeds, some from wounds, others from heartbreak, others from the realization that the world they built is collapsing. It's messy, brutal, and unforgettable. The kind of scene that reminds you this story was never about fairy tales. It's about the cost of love, the weight of power, and the price of betrayal, and then silence. That bone-chilling kind of silence that means nothing will ever be the same. People lie broken. Trust lies shattered. Love still burns, but it's fragile, flickering in the darkness. Brian and Ellen, if they make it out, will carry scars that never heal. Julia and Henry's fate hangs in the balance. Malcolm, Colum, and Dowell, their paths are far from over. Revenge and ambition will keep them moving, no matter the cost. The finale doesn't give us peace. It doesn't give us closure. What it gives us is something far more haunting, the promise of war. The battle lines are drawn in blood, and the ones who survive tonight will find themselves in a fight bigger than anything they've faced before. Because once blood has been spilled, once trust has been broken, there's no going back. Blood of My Blood Episode 10 isn't just a finale. It's a declaration. Love will burn, power will poison, and blood will always demand more blood.